just along with the great whooping cough of 2020, there's another topic that I am never going to let people forget. And that, of course, is El Jefe Epstein, okay? The bloke who owned the island and was doing some terrible, terrible things with his friends on that island to poor innocent children. So, I suppose a lot of you would have seen Donald Trump downplaying a question about El Jefe Epstein yesterday. His literal words were, "Are you still going on about this Jeffrey Epstein?" I mean, come on, the guy was a creep. Those were his literal words, I shit you not. When Pam Bondi was asked about the list, he literally turned around. He interrupted Pam from asking and said, "Oh, do you mind if I just..." She's like, "Yeah, of course, Mr. President." And then he looks at the reporter and goes, "Are you still going on about this Jeffrey Epstein? Why are we going to waste our time on this, Mr. Epstein?" And I was screaming at the TV going, yes, we are. We'll waste as much time as possible because that guy is a big part of the puzzle. Of everything that we're seeing, that Mr. Epstein is a big part of the puzzle. So yes, we are going to waste that fucking time on him. Well, of course, I do often talk about the Mockingbird Media. I do, it was an operation by the CIA, right? The Mockingbird Media. They're used as part of it. The reason they use the media per se is because media are one of the ones who, they take their name from the goddess Media. They sell the illusion. They sell an illusion. So who better to use than the media itself? And the CIA knew this and know this. So have a listen to this, and then I'm going to read through a little script. I had a little back and forth with an AI, and I'm going to read a little bit of background on Mockingbird Media, right? Particularly, I'll tell you when I get to it. So have a listen to this.
So what's really going on here? I mean, what's really going on? Well, experts, such as our friend Julie Brown from the Miami Herald, who's been covering Epstein for years, say that the notion of Epstein having an easy-to-access client list is likely a red herring. And that's what the Trump administration is relying on, that there likely isn't a list per se. But they are also now relying on the fact that because it's MAGA influencers who often put forward so many falsehoods, legacy news media won't push the point, that while there might not be a list, there are certainly files that can be released. There's a trove of information that the Trump administration is right now refusing to share. Information that could well point to the powerful folks who availed themselves of the sex trafficking victims of Jeffrey Epstein. If you go, for example, to the FBI vault online, you can see that there are 22 files containing thousands of pages. Most of them are heavily redacted. Now, sure, of course, redact the names and identifying characteristics of the victims. But why not make the victim and witness testimonies public? As Julie Brown points out, there's still so much we don't know from the investigations by U.S. attorneys in Miami and in New York, witness interviews in the U.S. Virgin Islands and New Mexico. Brown writes that there's still more evidence that hasn't been published, including, quote, Epstein kept video cameras in most of his residences, and Epstein's autopsy, nor the report of the investigation into his death, has ever been made public. So while there may not be an official client list to be released, as the administration is now saying, there's a lot of extra information that is not being made public, despite Trump's Justice Department basically now saying case closed. This isn't going to go away. The public, you're being played for fools here.
So that's the media itself saying that to you, saying that to all of us. You might look at it and go, "Well, he's only talking to Americans there." No, this is talking to the world. This particular, when they do shit like this, they're talking to the world. And he points at the camera and he goes, "You out there, you are being taken for fools." Yeah, it's, I'll tell you a few things about that I know and I've learned about this case that kind of stick with me and will never, never, ever, ever go away, right? One is when he first got arrested in Trump's first term. No, he got arrested even before that. He got arrested in 2009 initially. And when he served, he didn't have to stay in prison. He could go out and operate, and he had to come back and he had to sleep in the prison. That was it. That was his prison sentence. He was allowed to go out and still operate, come back, and he had to sleep in the prison. Go look it up. 2, when he did finally get released the first time, he held a big party. And who went? All members of CNN, all high-end reporters, they all went and partied with Jeffrey Epstein because he got let out. God knows who else went. You can only imagine who else was at that party. Oh, to be a fly on the wall at that party. 2, this guy that is tied to him, Mr. Leslie Wexner. I mean, people don't know, right? This Leslie Wexner chap, if you remember the footage that was released of Prince Andrew, Prince Andrew, the non-sweater, the guy who doesn't sweat, apparently. Well, those photos of that building that he got captured in, Leslie Wexner sold that to Jeffrey Epstein for $1. A mansion, a full-on mansion, priced at $60 million, got sold to Jeffrey Epstein for $1. You know, it's things like this that you should be like, why aren't more people? Well, I suppose a lot more people out there are interested and want to know what the fuck is really going on there. But they're kind of just pushed to the side. Like when Trump said that the other day, are you still talking about why are you wasting your time on this Jeffrey Epstein? I'm like, waste as much time as fucking possible on him. Because like I said, that man is the gatekeeper of all gatekeepers. And I'm sure stuff that we're seeing happening in the world is tied to that guy. A lot of stuff that's happening around the world is tied into that guy. Anyway, here's the chat I had, and anyway, right, with the old AI about Operation Mockingbird, right? And it says that it has been, the two have been linked before. The Epstein situation and Mockingbird are often linked. But of course, it's fobbed off as conspiracy theory, right? Blah, blah, yeah, whatever. But let's explore a hypothetical, I said to it, okay? So, background on the Mockingbird. It was a CIA program in the 1940s to manipulate news media for propaganda purposes. Journalists were recruited to spread pro-US or anti-communist content, influence foreign media, and suppress inconvenient narratives. Though its full extent remains murky, declassified documents and Senate hearings in the 70s confirmed media manipulation efforts. So who was this El Jefe Epstein? Well, he was a wealthy financier and a convicted sex offender, ran a vast network involving underage girls, allegedly for the benefit of powerful individuals, maintained connections with elite figures in politics, finance and academia. Died under mysterious circumstances in jail in 2019. Now, I pushed it on the unaliving himself, but it didn't want to go there. It won't admit that part, which is weird, isn't it? It won't admit that part about him unaliving himself for some reason. So, hypothetically, how would Epstein be used in a Mockingbird-like strategy, right? Purpose: to control public perception of elites, corruption and intelligence involvement. Media might selectively downplay Epstein's intelligence ties, protect certain high-profile figures, or redirect focus onto fringe conspiracy theories. So it's a fact that they're just keeping him around now and again just to keep the label of conspiracy theory going? Or what? Because what else are they doing? They're not revealing anything about it. They just keep on mentioning his name now and again. when you think about it. The mainstream do. Major outlets, so for a good example of this, major outlets might avoid deep dives into Epstein financial backers or potential intelligence links, i.e. Ghislaine Maxwell, I've talked about her, or Robert Maxwell, who was Ghislaine's father, also had documented intelligence ties. Now, Robert Maxwell was an interesting individual. I've talked about him many times. This guy was playing all sides. This Robert Maxwell, the guy who, quote, fell off his boat, end quote, which was also named Ghislaine after his daughter. He got, I personally think what happened was he tried to screw over Mossad, and Mossad weren't having that, so they had to make him go away, because the Robert Maxwell chap, he was linked with nearly every nation in the world, playing nations off against nations, and all, you know, like a George Soros type of influencer. Anyway, let's keep going. So the psychological operations part of it, i.e. PSYOPs, purpose to discredit valid concerns by flooding the media with extreme contradiction theories. Remember I told you about this cognitive warfare that's ongoing, launched by NATO, is flood all of our heads with contradiction, messages that contradict each other. That's exactly what they're doing with this Epstein thing. Controlled leaks by media disinformation can cause confusion, making the truth harder to verify. Example, mixing real facts, e.g. Epstein connections, with wild speculation, e.g. satanic rituals or cloned celebrities. Where have we heard that? Can marginalise legitimate inquiries. Blackmail as leverage over media and politicians to silence or manipulate journalists and politicians who could otherwise challenge intelligence agencies or corrupt institutions. If Epstein was running a compromat, so compromising politicians operation, gathering blackmail material, those compromised could be leveraged to assist in media narratives, legislation or silence. Manage elite exposure without damaging systemic power structures. Wow. Media could be instructed to shape coverage, focusing on Epstein as a lone predator rather than exposing institutional complicity. Now, if you did watch the Trump and Pam Bondi conference, that's what she did. She focused in, even though she directly addressed this by saying, yes, I did say I had his list on my desk, but it was basically loads of videos and links of stuff Jeffrey Epstein had downloaded, so making him out to be a lone predator. That's exactly what Pam Bondi did the other day. Media distraction tool, divert public attention from other national security issues or policy decisions. Now, I can tie a little part in here with Ireland. I seen Miss McEntee the other day come out and talk about putting more pressure on schools and teachers when it came to students who might be a bit vulnerable. Now, that had me thinking that she's using that to distract from something else that they're pushing through here in Ireland at the moment, currently, which I did say the deadline for the hate speech was the 7th, as directed by the EU, but they pushed it back to the 11th, so it's 2 days' time. So that'd be something that I'd be thinking she's trying to do with that. She's trying to keep the focus there while they're going to pass something or bring up that hate speech bill again and push through. That's exactly what these in America are doing. A lot of people have said that maybe Trump is doing Netanyahu a favour by doing this, mentioning it, bringing it up again, but downplaying it as a distraction to delay some sort of... I think Benjamin Netanyahu is meant to be up in court or brought up crimes against humanity or something. this is just hearsay. People out there talking about this. So maybe it's to distract from his mate Benji getting brought up in front of court. But we'll see. Time will tell. Time reveals everything. Just as Mockingbird used media as a distraction, endless sensationalism around Epstein's death could bury more pressing investigations, e.g. into financial crimes, human trafficking networks, or intelligence abuses. Important caveat here is there is no direct evidence that Operation Mockingbird still operates. So I had to reiterate that to me. But I'm telling you, like, even though I've just told you all that stuff, Mockingbird isn't still in operation. I think it is, in fairness. I think it is. However, mechanisms of state media influence do still exist, whether via access journalism, national security narratives, or PR firms with intelligent ties. So if you were to argue that the Epstein situation was being used in Operation Mockingbird, the core idea would be that media coverage is being manipulated either to protect powerful interests, mislead the public, or maintain control over political discourse. Right? So I was like, now fuck this, go a bit deeper into it. Fictionalize an internal memo for me about this, right? So it made up this whole thing about classified eyes only. Echo-gate. I called it Echo-gate, right? Which I thought was interesting. Nice choice of words, Echo. Subject Echo, which is Jeffrey Epstein himself, represents a high-risk nexus of financial, political, and intelligence adjacent activity where he, with his rearrest and subsequent high-profile debt-coordinated media containment, is necessary to preserve operational assets, public trust in institutes, and long-term strategic influence. Isolate narrative, portray Echo, Jeff, as a lone predator, minimize associations with intelligence-connected figures and global elites. Discredit deep inquiry, seed and amplify fringe theories to dilute credibility of independent investigators. Protect individuals essential to national interests, including allied political figures and former agency collaborators, which is CNN, by the way. CNN were one of the media outlets that went and partied with El Jefe once he got freed from prison. Guide coverage through cooperative assets and pressure mechanisms. Primary message, shocking but isolated crime by a wealthy eccentric. It's exactly it. Secondary message, justify delayed injustice denied. Focus on victims' healing. They did do that for a while with, what was her name? Gouffre. What was that for? I forget her first name. Yeah, woman Gouffre or whatever. They focused on her, but she's dead now. She apparently died in a car crash there a couple of months ago. Forbidden narratives, things that they're not allowed to talk about. Alleged ties to Israeli, US, or other intelligence agencies. Financial links to black budget operations or covert funding channels. Use of Echo Jeff network as blackmail leverage. Pitch human interest, victim-centered stories. Avoid speculation on jail protocols or suspicious timeline inconsistencies, and redirect to conspiracy culture dangers. So expect now in the next few months as we roll, because that's all they're going to do is just what Trump was doing the other day was basically putting a seal on that for a while. You know, are you still wasting your time? Do we still have to waste our time on this Mr. Jeffrey Epstein? The guy was a creep. Yes, waste as much time as possible, but in the next rolling months, be prepared for them to mention it now and again and still bring it up. The mainstream will. Even though they're all complicit in it, they'll still bring it up, because that's the whole point of the Mockingbird Media, is to rub it in your face. They know we know. And they spin it and say this, things like this.
The public, you're being played for fools here.
So they want to keep reminding you all that you're all being played for fools. That's the most truthful I've ever seen a media outlet be. when he said, "These are all being played for fools." That's the whole point of them, people. The Mockingbird Media. That's what they're there for. To mock the fuck out of us. The Epstein thing is a top 5 topic for a lot of people in the world, and they know this because we know, and personally I know, that whole Hefe Epstein is the gatekeeper of all gatekeepers, and that man had dirt on everybody all across the spectrum. And once again, it's like a Robert Maxwell sort of situation. You know, maybe he did try to play off. Maybe he did try to go against Mossad somewhere down the line, and they weren't having any of it. That's just a personal opinion, and it could be actually true. You know, so he had to end up like Mr. Maxwell. But there you go. There's our Mr. Hefe Epstein, and Operation Mockingbird.